Each year at Gold Hill, we are exploring the Old Testament book by book. You can join us in that on a Sunday or online at goldhill.org/GGP, which stands for God's Great Purpose. This week we'll be exploring the third book of the Pentateuch, Leviticus, and all the material we've made for that is at goldhill.org/Leviticus. If you're familiar with it, when you hear someone make reference to it, what comes to mind? Just how would you sum it up? Leviticus is arguably one of the least studied books in the entire Bible. Many people who determine to read Scripture right through, starting from Genesis, skip or quit after a few chapters once they arrive in the book of Leviticus. A predominant thought you may have when pondering on the book of Leviticus may be simply rules. And you would be entirely right. Leviticus is 27 chapters of God issuing commandments and decrees that his people should follow as they prepare to enter the promised land and then claim it for themselves. When someone alludes to rules and regulations, sometimes then we can entertain words and thoughts such as being limited, having boundaries, being held, chained or constrained. But when we inspect the Scripture, we find that actually the opposite is true of the interaction of God and his people Israel. Liberty, free to be their own people, set apart. Deliverance, saved from the oppression of slavery. Protection, rules that would keep them from that which could be of harm to them. As a consequence of God's love and devotion to his people, he gave rules, principles to live by, structure for the sake of stability, premise for building a holy people, rules that bring about liberty for those who abide. Our faith isn't about rules. It is about a relationship with the living God. But as a consequence of that relationship, as with any healthy relationship, we see the institution of rules that permit love, justice, and truth. While much of the ritualistic and ceremonial law isn't applicable for living today, its implications on our lives can be great, especially when perceived through the lens of Jesus, the fulfiller of the law. The opening verses of Leviticus say this: "The Lord summoned Moses and spoke to him from the tent of meeting, saying, 'Speak to the people of Israel and say to them,'" then it proceeds to go on to cite the next 27 chapters. God spoke and God speaks. This week we will explore a God who spoke and who speaks. Leviticus has something to say to us today, and God has something to illuminate to us. The God who speaks, what will he say as we meet together this week?